Welcome back, coders, to another exciting video on my channel. If you have been eager to dive into the world of web development and creating stunning websites from scratch, and you are just beginner learning basics about HTML and CSS, you are in the right place. In today's video, I'm bringing you an immersive and hands-on learning experience, a full end-to-end project training for HTML and CSS, and also how you can integrate a design system like a Photoshop or Figma into a real interactive HTML and CSS. Think of this video as your personal coding classroom. You'll be working on a real project, teaching you HTML and CSS concepts along the way. So don't worry if you are a beginner or even absolute beginner, because we'll be covering all from the basics. So let's jump in our project. We'll take a challenge from Friends and Mentor, which I'll put the link in the description for you. And in this Friends and Mentor, they give you some set of challenges, okay? And they have a premium ones, which are paid versions, but you have as well a free ones, okay? So what I do, if like I use a starter, you can just select, for example, the free option, and then you start with newbie because you're just a starter. This one is completely for a new or beginner developers, okay? And we will take examples as we go and we try to build them together. So that's, I believe really strongly, that you can't learn anything new just by reading or looking at videos. You need really to get your hands on the project, okay? So we will start with small pieces like these into building full pages in the future. So for today's video, we'll start with this component right here. It's a very small one, and it's called the result summary component. And in our series, we'll be covering desktop and mobile design as well. So you'll be able to build the ability to build responsive designs, okay? So go ahead, go to the link and download your challenge. So I have premium, so I'll just download it. And the extra thing will give me is the design file. So don't worry about it if you don't have it. Just follow along so you can understand the HTML CSS. But this one will be an extra plus for you, because you'll be also learning visually how you can debug a design system or a design file, and how you can get properties for there and import it in your HTML and CSS. I'll go ahead and download my starter. So I got my starter download, so you can see it's coming with few folders here. So you have first the assets, so it's giving you already the images you need for your project, as well as the font you need for your project as well. And if we go back, and the images too, so we said that we go back, and here you have the design, okay? So if you have free version, that's all what you'll get. So you'll get designs as a pictures, okay? So this is what we want to build. So you want to build a summary or a result summary, a component or card. It have left side and right side, okay? Left side with overall score and some description, and right side with list of sub sections or categories with their scores as well, okay? So this is like an active state where you see that cursor is hovering on the button. Then you have a normal one, see, and the button color has changed, so that's the normal state. And then you have the mobile version, which is like this. So you see the layout has changed, okay? Before it was next to each other, now they are on top of each other. So that's what we need to build. With the project as well, it comes with a starter index.html and readme file. So what I will do, I'll go to my Visual Studio Code and open this folder. So file, open folder, or I can do something like this, cancel, or just go back here and I will drag this folder right there, okay? So let's check the readme file. That's something you should always do if you are joining a new team or anything. That first thing you do is reading the readme file, so you know what you're dealing with, okay? So you can see here about the challenge. It's asking us to build out this result summary component and get it looking as close to the design as possible. So of course, if you're using the free version, you'll only have the pictures. So you can use some tools, add them to your Chrome browser, like a ruler, the color picker, which can help you to do measurements manually by yourself. Okay, but through this video, of course, I'll be using directly Figma, so you can know how to use the designs in real time like you're doing in the office. Okay, so these days you can use only tools you like to help you complete the challenge. So if you have got something you'd like to practice, feel free to give it a go. So for our one, we are practicing beginners HTML CSS, but maybe from senior people, they want to practice something like React or Vite or some other libraries. So that's why they give you this option. Okay, so you can do any way you want, as long as it's good for you and that's what you want to practice. And they give us some data.json. We will not use that for now. Let's see. That's with the data we need to render. You can see here it's giving us a list of categories and also the score. So maybe let's use it in this example so you can know or understand how to read a JSON file. Let's go back to README. And the user should be able to view an optimal layout for the interface depending on the device's screen size. So basically, when you build your UI and you go and you stretch or make your window bigger or smaller, the UI should not break. You should not see half of it only or some part of it. You should still see the whole components. Okay, and that will fall in the responsive design. You can see the hover and focus states for all interactive elements, which we have in our scenario the button I showed you before in the picture. And it will be bonus for you if you can use your local JSON to dynamically populate the content. So that will be an extra thing if you can do, and that you don't use only HTML and CSS for it. So I'll keep it for end as a bonus. If you guys want me to do it, I can create a follow-up video. If you guys are able to do it by yourself, that's amazing. And that's it. Whatever follow later, it's just more details. So they tell you that your task is to build out the project to the design inside the design system. So you remember these images we said here. So we want to build these components. Okay, it's one but should be responsive. Okay, and the designs are in JPEG static format. Using JPEG will mean that you will need to use your best judgment for styles such as font size, padding, and margin, because of course you can't get the exact one from images. So you just use your eye and perspective, and you can try to get it as much close as you want. Okay, but for us, through this video, I will be using the Figma directly, so I will be showing you how to get the exact details for your CSS. All the required assets for this project are in the assets folder. So this is your assets folder. So you have your fonts and you have your images as well there. Okay, and the style guide, which is amazing for this challenge, is already giving you a style guide here. So for example, the optimal layout for mobile is 375 pixels. So, and the desktop is 1440 pixels. And also it's giving you list of the colors they're used. So let's say even now you don't need that color picker I was telling you for the Chrome extension. You can just find the colors from here. Okay, these are also the gradients. They give you the list of gradients here, and the neutral color are here as well. Okay, and the font size, generic one for the body, is 18 pixels. And also they give you the link if you want to use a CDN instead of the font file itself. You can just go to Google Fonts and use a CDN from there. Okay, nice. So this is an overall idea about the project we are building. Now I can just go into index.html and start from here, or you can just create a new index.html and start from 0. What I will do for this video today, I'll just stay from here, and what I will do, I will run this into my browser. So I have a live server extension already installed in my Visual Studio Code. So I'll run that. So it should run in my browser by default, as you can see here. If of course you're not using Visual Studio Code, or you don't know how to use that extension, you can just go back to your folder, okay, and go to index.html and double click, and should open up in your default browser in your machine. Okay, now again, like I explained in previous videos, if you use from your local directory like this, if I go and do a change, and let's make sure put these next to each other. So if I go and do like this from my local, if I do any change, let's say, let me close this to make more view, and let's say hello. Okay, click save. So I saved my folder. See here, I can't see that hello. I have to go manually and reload it. Okay, but with the server, I didn't hard load it by itself, it just load. Again, I can show you here, just add 11111, click save, and you see it hard load by itself. And it may look something small, but trust me, we're building big projects and you are within the teams. This one is a slower down. If you have to do and go reload your browser every time by yourself, that is costing you time, even few seconds every time. That costs you almost a couple of hours in a day if you're working, and that can be really frustrating. Okay, so if you're using Visual Studio Code, you can just go to extension and click live server, write live server, and you have it here. Just install it and then it will be available for you. Now let's close this and let's open my Figma. And I will try to open the project. So now I open our project in the Figma file and I can show you how this works. So we have 3 designs here. So the card in desktop, and this is in normal state. Okay, and then you have here in desktop but active state. Okay, and you can see why it is a home on the button, and the button color here is different than this one. Okay, and then we have the third one, which is a mobile. Okay, usually when you start any new development or creating a new piece of UI, make sure you understand your design, okay, because that will help you to better create your HTML and better write in your CSS as well, in the way it can be reusable later. Okay, now I will just delete all these things from here. I don't need them now. I want to start from fresh, as well as these things here. I want to remove them. So we start from scratch. What else? So that's it. That's all what we need to remove, so we can start from 0. Okay, this one as well, I'll remove them from now, so I'll explain you later what is for. I'll just comment them out. Okay, good. Now, like I always say, you start from the level up and you keep going down. Okay, so first things first is that we have this background, right? And under the background, at the moment we only have the cards, so I can feel like, okay, the background will be the body itself element in our HTML that will do the work for us, and then directly down it will be our main wrapper for our card. Okay, so the body element, and then I'll create a div. Okay, and div is an HTML element and it is a block element, and what I will do, I'll give it a class name. Okay, so let's call it summary card. Okay, and make sure the meaning makes sense. Okay, I'll just write for now hello, go back to my browser, and there we go. Okay, and I can see here something showing. I missed something here. Okay, there we go, because I removed something from here. Let me correct it. Remove that. There we go. So all good now. Now we go to styling. We don't have a style or CSS file, so we'll create new one. So I go to the root, or you can add a folder. So in previous or the first video of this series, we just do it in the root. Let's today create a folder. I'll call it CSS. Okay, and inside that I'll create a file. Let's call it styles.css. Okay, and let's start with a reset. And why the reset? Oh, not the 8, star. And star means all elements in your HTML, all elements, whatever you have in HTML, it will target it with this star. Okay, so usually every browser have default settings like paddings and margins, so usually just gonna reset those. Margin 0, so it doesn't impact my design when I start designing, and I have more control on it. Padding 0, and then also box sizing. And box sizing, the way it works is, if you have an element, let me inspect and show you. So let's say for example you have a div element. Okay, and div element, it have the height, right? And our height now is 18 pixels. But let's say if I add padding to it, 2 pixels, and it has a border and it has also margin, but I don't want my div to cross 18 pixels. Okay, if I don't do this, I remove it and I have the height and the padding, it will add up. So if this one is 18 and this one 1, it will become the total height of my div 21 pixels. It will not be 18 pixels. Okay, and that can be a breaker for your design when you have very complex UI. So always in my standards from last few years, I'm following this. I use box sizing, and box size will make sure if this one is 18 and here 1 and 1, all together the div will be still 18. Okay, the padding and the border and the margin will be including inside the height itself. Okay, so that's what box sizing for. So I did a reset for the whole thing, and what I will start next is the body. Okay, and the body, we will say the background color. So we'll start now inspecting our design. We remove this. We click on this, on the background, and you can see on my right side there's few things show up, and that's inspector in my Figma. Okay, and it's giving me already few things, and you can see here the background color. So you see here background, that is the color in the background. Let's click away to make sure, yeah, that's like light blue. Click again, and that's the light blue I want. So I'll just go and copy that and do background color. That will do a background color for my full body elements. Hash and color. Let me close this on the left so there is more space. Go back to my browser and let's put this inspector down. Okay, now I did the body color as this light blue, but I can see here it's still white. Maybe let me give you darker one so it's more visible. Click save. You see it's still white, and if I inspect my body, my style is not coming. And the reason why, because I need to import my styles file inside my HTML. Otherwise my HTML file doesn't know anything about my styles. Okay, the way we do that, we go inside the head tag, okay, between the opening and closing, anywhere you want, and add a link tag and the relation. So rel equal, so that was saying the type of relation we're doing. It is style sheet. That stands for CSS. Okay, style sheet. Okay, then we have the href. Okay, and the href will be my folder. So I'll go to the CSS folder, and then I'm going to styles. Okay, now close my tag, click save. There we go. You can see it's becoming here blue color. Okay, now next thing is to our card. So we did this. The next level is the card. So let's click the card, and when I click it, I can see it have a certain width. Okay, and the width currently it is, if you see the blue thing down here, when I can't move over it because I will lose the focus, but you see it have W fixed 736 pixels. Okay, usually I don't touch the height for responsive design. I'll just go ahead with the width. Okay, and the height will fit as I go with the styling. So the width 736 pixels, and even if I do this, you can see here, because I click it, you see there's a blue border around it. On the right side, it's giving me all the details. It's saying the width is 736 pixels. Okay, so I'll go here, copy my class name, go to styles. So the way you style using classes, you do dot and then class name. Okay, and I'm saying the width will be 736 pixels. Right, now the next thing is, if you see your card, I'll click away, it have like curved corners, so those are border radius. And if I want to know what is it and how much it is, again I click on it and it should show me here in the styles. Okay, so it's saying the border radius is 32 pixels. So I'll come here again inside my class, I'll say border radius, it is 32 pixels. Great. Now next thing is the background. You can see the background of my card is white. Okay, so I'll just do background color, or even background alone. Okay, and you say white. And that should do for us some work. Let's click save, go back to our card, and you can see here, so it's white and it have curved corners. Now the other thing to notice is that in our design, the card, it is centered vertically in the center, even horizontally. Okay, so the way we can do at least horizontally is you do margin auto on the left and margin right auto. Okay, so margin left auto and margin right auto. Click save, and you can see it's become centered horizontally. Now vertically, all what I will do is just make some margin on the top to push it a little bit inside the screen. Okay, and the way we can do that, margin top is, for example, let's see our design. If I click here, then on top 284 pixels. Okay, so 284 pixels. Go back, and that's our card right there. Okay, good. Now the next level, the content inside. So we have two. We have one on the left, the big one, and then one on the right. Okay, now the left one, it is gradient color, and it have few details in here. So let's take that one by one. So inside this div, I'll remove this hello, and it have, we said, two elements beneath it, the left and the right. So I'll make two children again. So the first one and the second one. Okay, now let's start work on our left section, and again we go from the top to the bottom. So we have first this left element, right? So that's the first child of our main card, and we created it here. And let's give it also a class name to help us in styling. And let's say summary overall section, for example. Okay, and we will give a title here, which is your results. Okay, and let's give it, for example, an h3. You can use any elements you want, and you can say your result. Okay, and then the next section is this here, this section around one here. Okay, and this one have two things inside, two numbers or two levels of fonts. Okay, so I will come down here, I'll create a div element to hold the whole thing for me. Okay, because I need it to make this circle around it, and then inside there I'll create here first class also to help me styling overall score, for example. And inside I will have here let's say another div, another span. It doesn't really matter because you'll style it again. Just the difference, again, the div is block element, should do work for me here because the 76 is taking the whole row. So I'll use the div, I'll keep right here 76. Okay, and I'll create another div which will have the second one, okay, of 100. So of 100. Okay, and I can add again here class names to help me styling, and it will make more sense. If I just go to the CS and say overscore first div or overscore second div, it must be confusing. Okay, so overall I can say score, I can say the score, and here I can say, for example, total, for example. I don't know, you can name it anything. And in next to this div now I need another heading, which is the status. Okay, so I can just come here again, either use a p tag or anything. I'll use a h4, let's say, and say great. Okay, and next to it I have a small text here. Okay, and that is a standard font size 18 pixels if you remember the readme file. So I'll just use a p tag and I'll copy this text and I paste it here. Okay, now we have our content. If you go to the card, you can see our texts are coming there from the HTML, right? Now the turn of CSS to style it off for us. I'll just put here in the second div hello, so it can help us in styling. So first things first is that we need to put these two elements next to each other, and this one will be 50% and second one 50%. So the way we do that, we give the main card display flex, okay, and then we'll say the main children will flex it 50%, okay. So we'll do like this and direct div, okay, and we do flex 50%. Click save, and now you can see these two are next to each other, okay, and if you can see it's like 50-50, it is 50-50, okay. Now next thing is, we'll keep this to last, we work now on this section. So first thing is the background color, okay. Let's see what class name we give to our left side. So summary overall section, we'll do dot class name again, and let's style it. So first the background color, and you can see here it is not just one single color, it's like some purple and going towards blue, and that's called gradient color, okay. And the way you do that here is already helping me in Figma. It's saying it's a linear gradient, okay. So we can do like this, linear gradient, okay, and open the parentheses, and then you'll have the degree of the gradient and then the colors, okay. So here it's using kind of three colors. So the first color, it's starting from 0%, then second one, and then the third one, okay. So I'll just copy and paste these. Click save, okay, and let's open up our browser. And thus it didn't work. The reason why it didn't work is because we used a background color. You remember before, if you use just normal background, I told you can use either background color or background alone. But when you're using the gradient, you can't use a background color because it's not one color, okay. You have to use background property in CSS. And let's click save, and you can see that's my gradient now, it's coming through, right? Great. Now next thing is the corners again. So you can see the corners of my card, they are curved, so I'll click there, and you can see here in Figma is helping me, so it's also 32 pixels. So I'll add border radius 32 pixels, okay. Click save and go back there, and you can see here it is curved now. Next thing you'll see is that the text is touching the corners, but if you go here, it's not, it's in the middle. So we need to add some paddings to our card. Paddings means the spacing here on the corners, okay. So if I click in this element and touch up, you can see it's 38, and let's do the same for down one, it's 55, and then you can see it's already giving me on the sides 54 on the left, 54 on the right, okay. So it was here 28, so I can do this padding, and padding starts top, left, bottom, right by order, okay. So 24 pixels for top, and we said 54 for the left and right, and then 55, okay. So 54 pixels for right, 55 for down, and 54 for the left again. Click save, and there it is, okay. Next thing, now we'll start working on our text, and first we have to import our font. If you open the style guide, and let's get our font details. So it is Hanking Grotesque, so I'll just copy this link, I'll paste it there, and you'll open the font for me, okay. Otherwise, if you can just write this in Google and say font, and it will give you the same thing, okay. So this is the font. Now it's saying here we need the weights 800, 700, and 500, okay. So let me make sure that's correct. So if we just inspect through, here is 700, here it's 702, here it is 500. So we have two, 700 and 500. Now let's check other 700, 500, 500, 700, and 800. Okay, so we have 3, right? So I'll go back to Google Font. If I have anything selected, I will just remove it. Okay, and let's select 500, and let's select 700, and let's select 800. I go back here and I'll just copy the link. Okay, just click this, then go back to my index.html and go back inside your head tag again. Okay, anywhere between this opening and closing head tag. Okay, and you can add your font. I'll just go here and do it. Click save, and I have my font now imported. Okay, now I'll just go to font family and add it in CSS because we have only font, so by default everything should have that font family. I'll just do this. Okay, so I'm saying anything inside my app will use this font. Okay, now if I go back here, you'll see this one's a little bit changed. You see, I will comment this so you see the difference. See now, it's like a little bit curved and cornered, very curved corners. But if I uncomment and add my new font, you can see it has changed. Okay, so I know my font now, it's working. Now let's go back, and also another thing in my style guide, it says that the standard font size is 18 pixels. So again, I'll go to my style, I'll say everything also will have font size of 18 pixels. But of course, the ones that are different, you change them accordingly. Okay, so I close now my style guide, come back here, go back to close the fonts, links, I don't need them, and go back here. Now, the first one is the top heading. Okay, so I'll copy the name. I have overall scroll section, and that's one H3. Okay, so I'll go to my style, I'll say again any H3 inside the overall section. Okay, which means later you can't change that H3 to H2, but if you have a class name and you use the class name for the H3, then you can do that easily. Okay, now inside this one we need a font size of 24 pixels, and I can see it here because I select your results and I can read my styling right there. Okay, font size for 24 pixels. The color is this light purple, so color. And again, what other thing, the font weight is 700. Okay, and that remind me, the standard font for the whole app should be usually the medium, which is 500. So I'll say here font weight standard is 500. Okay, but for different ones we'll just add them as we need them. Okay, now let's click save, and let's go back here, and you can see that's my my elements. So if I inspect it to see the styling, that it is font size 24, that's the color, and the font weight is 700. Okay, now the other thing to see here is like everything is centered. So what I will do, I will go to the main card on the left, I will say text align center. Okay, let's go back to our app, and I'll click save, and you see everything centered. Great, so we don't have to do it in each and every one. Okay, because lucky for us, the design is too simple, we know everything is centered, so I just have to do it in the main div, which hold all that section here for us. Right, now next thing is we'll move to this, but before that we need a space between the heading and next one. So if I select heading and hover on the circle, you can see it's 35, so that's mean the spacing is 35, so margin bottom 35 pixels. Click save, and we go back here, and there is a space in there. Okay, now next thing is this overall. Okay, so we have to start again from the top section, which is the circle. Let's go back to our HTML and get the class name of that circle thing we did. So we call it overall score, and I will go here again because it's a class name. We do dot and do class name, and let's see our Figma what give us. So it's saying the width and height is 200 pixels for that circle. So let's give it a width 200 pixels and also height 200 pixels. Okay, now next thing we need is this shaded circle in it, and again it's a background color and it's a linear gradient. Okay, now let's try this background, and again it's not background color, and we'll say linear gradient, and let's copy the properties from here. So I'll just copy these properties, paste it there. Okay, go back to our app and save, and you can see here it is impacted there. Now the other thing, it is a circle, right? Full circle. So the way you can achieve that, you can just use again border radius, and you will say this time not pixels but percent, 50%. This will give you a full circle. Okay, now the other thing is the circle here is to the left. We need it to be in middle, and if you remember the standard way to do that, margin left and margin right. So margin left is auto and margin right is auto as well. And you can see now we have our perfect circle shape with a gradient inside our content. So we can see that first two things are aligned, both of them the middle, vertically and horizontally. So how we can do that, we can use flex again on the overall container, which is our circle at the moment, right, which hold the two sections, the 76 and of 100, as you can see here, right? So these are aligned in the middle of this div. So we'll go to that div and do display flex, and let me open the browser next to us, and I will say align items center, and we will say justify content also center, and click save. And it works kind of horizontally and vertically too, but it put the 76 next to of 100, but we don't want that. And that's reason why is because the flex have a directions, row or columns, and by default is row, but we want column. So we'll go here and say flex direction is column. Click save, and there we go. So we have them both aligned vertically and central and horizontally, but we have the 76 on the top and then of 100. Nice. Now let's style the 76, and that's the styling. I'll copy the class name score, and I'll say dot score, and the color of the text as per my Figma is white, and it have a font size of 72, font size 72 pixels, and the font wise also is very bold, so font weight is 800. Okay, and then also we have the spacing between the 76 and of 100, which is not there actually. So let's click save and see how this looks like. So that it is nice. Okay, next one is of 100. Okay, and of 100 we have it with the class of total here, and I will copy that class name again, dot class name, and let's see the styling. So the styling of this one is the font size is 18, which should be there already, standard. The font weight is 700, which we'll do, it's not standard one. And the opacity, you see the text, it's like not fully colored. Okay, let's copy the color first. If you do like this, color, paste, and we go to our browser, that's how it is, right? It's very readable, but if you see the design, it's like a little bit off, and that's because they reduce the opacity of the text, and the opacity means how much transparent is the color is or the text is. Okay, so here we have the opacity of half, 0.51. okay, so almost half. So I'll do the opacity and 0.5. click save, go back to my browser, and there it is. Okay, now next section again we have to move to grade, but before we move to grade we need the spacing, so 28 pixels. So go back to my main div and add margin bottom of 28 pixels. click save, and there we go. There's a space between grade and the circle. Okay, now let's start styling the grade. So a H4. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll copy again the main section name, and we'll say, okay, the H4 inside that section, space H4, and let's go to our style so we can look at the color. So the color is white, so FFF means white, and then we have the font size is 32 pixels, and then you have the font weight is 700. Okay, and let's also pick up the spacing. So spacing between this and this are 14 pixels. So margin bottom 14 pixels. Click save. Let's go to our browser, and there it is. It looks really nice. Okay, now next section is the text down. So the font size I already put by default 18, so it should be correct, and also the font weight by default 500, that should be already there. The only thing we have to do is the color. Okay, so I'll go again here, the main summary section, and P tag, because it is a P element, if you remember, and then we will do color, and no, I didn't copy the color, so I'll just go copy it and paste it here. Click save, and then I go back here, and there we go. So our left section, it is nicely done. Now we are happy with it, all looks good. We'll just move to the right side. Okay, so the pattern we are doing is like doing things like in order. Start from the top, then you go down, then goes from the left to the right. It helps you not to forget anything. Okay, sometimes you have very complex designs. You may say, okay, I'll start this, then go to the right, then come back. You may forget things. Oh, these patterns help me also in following up and don't miss any element in my design. Now I'm happy with this. I'll just double check everything looks good, everything looks great. I will go now to next one. So next one, first we have to put our elements. So we have to go to our HTML, and then we can design them. So we close the first child, which was the one on the left, and this is the second one. I go here, and let's add a class name. I will say what we'll call it. Let's say described summary, or detailed summary section, for example. Something which makes sense. Detailed summary section. Okay, now the first thing, again, we start from the top. So we have a title here, and let's also, for example, H3 or H2, and we call it summary. Okay, then we have list of things here. Let me make this design bigger, and also think loud with you so you understand how I'm going to make this reusable. Okay, so if you see here, we have 3 or 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. Okay, the 4 elements in the design, and all of them have few common things. Okay, first, the shape of the object or of the UI is like here a rectangle with curved corners, which are all same. Okay, they have same height, same width, everything same. Okay, then the second thing is that the icons, they may not be same, but their location and their position and the space from here to the text, it is all of them the same. Okay, then all of them have labels. Maybe the color is different, but the labels, the size, the font, everything is the same. Okay, then it's divided also in 2 sections, all of them. There's your left section with the icon and title, and there's the right section. Okay, all of them with your score and the total also. Okay, so the way I will do it is I'll create this HTML elements. I'll give them same class. Okay, and then later I will add a special class just for coloring purposes. Okay, and let's see what that means. I'll create my first element here, and let's call it a class of what we'll call it, score subject. No, anything like something like that. And this one have two sections, like I said. There's a left one and there's a right one. Okay, and the left one, let's say class name, let's say subject name, for example, and this one will have an icon as well as a text, the label. Okay, so the way I get an icon, I'll just copy it from here in SVG. Okay, and then next to SVG I'll just have a span. And why I'll not just do text, I'll explain you why. Reaction. Okay, why I can't just do text. When I do span, it will help me later to add, for example, the spacing from this to the SVG image. Also, it can help me later maybe if I want to change the font size of this but don't change the font size of the SVG, things like that. Okay, so that's why I'm using span, which is an inline element. It's like it doesn't exist really. It's more helpful for designing purposes. Okay, now I have my left side, which is subject name. Now let's do another div, which should be the right side, and it will have a class name of, for example, subject score, for example. Okay, and this one, as you can see, it have like two sections in it. There's actual score and like the total score as well. Okay, so I'll use again two spans here, one, and that's one for design purposes, because here you see the color is like full color, full black color, and this one like grayed out color. Okay, so I'll have my first span. I'll say I'll give it a class name. I'll call it, for example, subject overall, and that will be 80. And then I'll have another span here, and I'll close it, and that will have a class name of subject total score, or max score, which make more sense, max score, and it will be /100. Okay, click save, and you can see here how it is structured for me. Now let me make this one bigger. So we have our score subject, right, which is this one here. Okay, and then that one have two children elements, one for the left, okay, and one, sorry, I want to click here, and one for the right. Okay, so that's what there are two. And then inside the first one you have your SVG, which is your image. Okay, and then you have your span, which is having the text. So that's in the first child. The second child is for the score on the right. Okay, and that also have two elements. There's the actual score and then this maximum score. Okay, now let me first fix this spelling, and let's go into styling. Okay, I will not add more of them now. I'll add them later as we go. So I'll just do this, and let's start styling the summary and the actual spacing here. Let me make design smaller a little bit. So you can see, first thing first, you have some padding here, right? The text is not stuck to the left. If I see now, it's all stuck here. Okay, so I will go click here. I have 38 on the top, and I have 40 on the left, and let's see here also 40 on the right too, and 46 on the bottom. Okay, so I will go and copy my full section class name, and also here this right section, just adding a comment. So that's how we add comments in CSS. You have /* your message, then // to close it off. Okay, now dot my class name, and this class name, so it have padding. Okay, Again, top is 38 pixels, 38 pixels, and the right and the left are the same, if I remember, so 40 pixels. So right is 40, then down is 46, so bottom 46, and then left again same as the right, 40 pixels. So top, right, bottom, left. Click save, open my browser, and there we go. So the text is not stuck now in the corners. Okay, now next thing is that summary title. Okay, so again, my actual class name of my div wrapper, and then it is an h3. So any h3 now inside that section will have this styling, and it will be font size 24, that's the size of your font, and it will be font weight 700. Okay, bold, and then the color is not black, but it is this color here. Let's click save and see. There we go. Great, now let's get some spacing and then we move to our next one. So the spacing here again is oh, I can't see it because of the label. Oh, now yes, 28 pixels. So margin bottom again, pixels. Great. Okay, now to our fun part. So this one have a class name of score subject, and let's copy the class name. So the score subject will be a width of 100%, whatever the width is there. So because it is already a div, which is a block element, it will be by default 100%. So we don't have to do that. Now we have to add paddings, and you can see here we have 17 pixels on the top, 16 down, and also this 16 on the left. If I click on the image here and then hover on the left, so it's 16 on the left. So we have 18 up and down, 16 on the left, and 16 on the right. So there we go. We have margin. So again, let me confirm it. 18 up and down and 16 left and right. So the way we can do shorthand. So if we do this way, that means with only two values, that means this one is for up and down and this one for the right and left. Okay, so that's 18 pixels. And then next thing we have is the border radius, because these ones are cornered. You can see the circled. Okay, and again the font size here, if I see my Figma file, it's saying 12 pixels. Okay, or even here in detailed, border radius is 12 pixels. So border radius 12 pixels. Great. Now the next thing is let's see the color, how it looks like. Okay, let's add a background color for now as well, and the background color for the first one is a gradient color, surprisingly as well. So which I can't see clearly because of background, it's very light background. So I will do background and not background color. I will say linear gradient, and I'll just copy the values I have here. So copy this and paste it there. Let's go back there, and there it is. Okay, now you can see these things are sticking to each other, and also these labels here and these ones are not in the one lane. Okay, so let's fix that. The first thing is the sticking to the corners. We need to add padding to make that spacing. So the padding, which I did wrong. Actually, when I put margin, I supposed to do padding. It's not margin. So padding is 1816, that's save, and that there it is. Now the only issue we have is these ones are not aligned together. And if you follow up with me from previous videos as well, you'll know that we use flex. So we do display, flex, and click save, and that should align them for me together. Now you'll see that the right one is sticking to the left one, but we know that this one will be always in the end. So the way you do that in flex, if you have two children elements or even more, and the main parent is flex, then if you want the last one to go completely to the right side, you just take the last one, give it margin left auto. Okay, so we know the class name of the last element is this. I'll come here, I'll say this one will have margin left auto. So this will push it completely to the right side. Okay, if there's any white space left, it will keep it on the left. Good. Now the next thing we have is you see this icon and the text themselves, they are not vertically aligned. So the way we will do it is here. So we have the subject name is wrapping up the image, SVG, and also the text. So we'll use again flex on that element itself to vertically align for us these two elements. So I copied the class name and I'll say display flex. Okay, align item center and vertically, no, not vertically, content justify, justify content center. Okay, so you can see immediately these two now they are nicely together next to each other, not one up and one down. Now the next thing is to make some spacing between these two elements. So let's see how much it is. So we have this one here, we have this one here, 12 pixels. So I'll come here, I'll say the subject name. So either you can do the SVG because we know that all SVGs will be down there, or you can do the span because we said we are wrapping our text in the span. So if you do the text, you will say margin left, then whatever that value we found there, 12 pixels. Click save, go back to our browser, and there it is. There is a space in there. Okay, now the color of our text. So this text color here is red, which is right here. And I'll say the span, I'll say the color will be this red. Okay, go back, there it is. Okay, that's nice. Now we are done with the left side. We paste it right here, and let's debug it and see what our styles we have. So the font size is standard, we don't need to do it. The font weight is 700, so it is bold, and the color is a dark navy color. It is dark navy. Okay, now also we need some spacing between this element and the second one. You can see here it is like 8 pixels, so I'll do margin right 8 pixels. Nice. Now save it. Let's go back to our UI, and okay, now let's save it and go back to our UI, and there it is, 80 pixels. Now let's save it and go back to our UI, and you can see here it's not applying. I think I copied the wrong class name. Let's open it. Oh, yeah, it should be subject overall. So let me replace this and correct it. And there we go. Now you can see it's a bit bolder and the color is different, and also there's a spacing here. Now next part is the max score. So I'll copy the class name and get the properties from Figma. Again, I click here, and then I can see the color is same, but even though it's different, it's because the opacity is less. Okay, so I'll just copy this color and also add opacity. I'll say 0.5, and let's say the font weight is also 700 like this one. Let's click save, go back to our UI, and there we go. Amazing, it looks really great. Now here there is like a slight way of improvements. You can see here that these two, they are two siblings of same parent, which is subject score, and both of them have the color and the font which is same. So we can reduce our code. I will say the subject score, okay, any span inside of it, because these were spans, right? So I'll just copy this one, paste it there, and remove it from here, and remove it from there too. Okay, click save, and see, it's still working. Okay, nice. Now let's move to the next one, and how we can add these without have to write all this code again. All what we have to do is just change the colors. Okay, like here is reddish, here is yellowish, here is greenish, and here is purplish, right? Other than that, everything, the layout is same, the paddings are the same around, the corners are the same, even the score styling is the same. Okay, and let's do that now. This is our first one, and what I will do, I'll just add a comment and first label, for example. Okay, just a comment in HTML to make it more readable for me. Let's add second one, and second one, of course, the SVG will be different. I'll copy the new SVG. Let's remove this one. Oops, let's remove this one here. Okay, paste the new SVG, get the new text, and also the new score, 92. Click save, go back to our UI. Here it is, right? So we have every content there, except that now the text and the background need to be yellowish. What I will do, I will go to the main div class, right? And I will add a class called, for example, yellow. Okay, and then I'll go to my styles, right? And I will say this score subject, okay, when it has a class, of yellow, see, I didn't do space in here because it's same element having more than one class. Okay, see here, it's one element but it's having two classes, and I want to target this element with these two classes together. Okay, if this one doesn't exist, then it will not work. Okay, so I'm saying when this class having this class too, so together, there's no space in here, then the background color, of course, will be changing. It's gradient, linear gradient, and then I'll copy the new background. So I click here and then copy the new background. Okay, click save, go back to my browser. There we go, you can see it's yellowish now. Same thing I will do for the text. Okay, and text, where it's coming from, it's coming from here. Okay, this is the colors coming. Now we know this one is inside this score subject. Okay, so let me close this. So the span here, okay, and the subject name, they're under this, so we will target nested elements. So I will say any main score subject with a yellow class, okay, targets any span inside the subject name. Okay, so space, then find from your subject name class. Okay, then find me the span inside of it. The color will not be red anymore. Okay, the color will be our new yellowish oranges color. So copy the new color and let's save it and go back, and that worked. Okay, now let's just add some spaces here and let's see how much it is. It's 16 pixels. So I'll go to the main default class because I want all of them, and I'll say margin bottom 16 pixels. Go back to my browser and there it is. Now Same thing I will do for others too. Okay, so I will close this one. I will add some comments to my HTML to separate them. It's easier to make me read it easily. And then I'll just copy again this or any one of them you want, and we'll paste it. But next one will be now green. Okay, and the SVG will be different. Let's copy the new SVG and replace this one here with it. It will be new label. Let's copy the new label and put it right there. Oh, that's the SVG. Let's copy the new label. And the new score, which is 61 in our scenario, and click save. So now I replaced everything, but my UI of course will not change until I add that class and style it. But later again, when you need it, you'll just have to copy and paste and it should work. So same thing we did here, we'll say for green color. Okay, I'll copy this, paste it here, but I'll say dot green. Okay, and then I'll copy the background from here. So copy this, and I will go here, replace this one, the new background. Okay, and also for the label, okay, right there, I should do the same thing, copy this and paste it, but replace this with the new class name green, and also get the new green color. Click save. Now if I go back, there we go, it worked. Same thing for the last one, it's also a new color, so we have to style it also. So I'll copy paste this section and end of third label, and now it will be purple. And of course the SVG would change. Let's copy the new SVG, remove this, replace with new, get the new text, and get the new score, which is 73. Okay, click save. Now we have to go back to the style, open our browser. So now that one is red, right? Because it doesn't have any extra class in it yet. Okay, and the purple is there but it's not designed. So let's go back again, do the same thing. Let's start with the label this time, because right there in my window, add the new class purple, and let's copy the color, and we go back now to the background, copy this and paste it again, change this to purple, our new class, and let's copy our new background color, copy and paste. Okay, click save. Now there it is, so nice and clean. Okay, they're all working, they have all same shape, just the color is different. Now I can easily just go and copy, for example, this one, right? Just copy and paste it as many times I want and it will work. Okay, because I use reusable classes, I just can go and change labels as I need. Okay, now let's save this. Let's reduce few others. Okay, there we go, now it's good. Now the last part we need is the button itself. Okay, so we go down and let's add also some comments, because our HTML is getting big and this one will just help us to keep track of it. Okay, now let's add our button, and again I'll add a class and let's call it action button, for example, because you may have it somewhere else as well. So all what you need then, just use the class name and it will style it for you. And we do continue and let's style it off. So we copy our class name go back to our CSS and let's get the combination. So this one not active state, we'll start with it first. So the border radius is 128 pixels. Okay, border radius 128 pixels, and the background color, it is a dark navy color, so that's a background color. And you can see here the spacing on the paddings is like 17 on the top, 16 on the bottom, but I can see that the button is taking the full width here. Okay, same if I go to the mobile design. So what I will do, I'll just use a height and width for the button and center my text. Okay, so the button height and width is here, 288 for the width, and height is 56, but the width I will put 100%. So whatever size I have just fits for me the whole width of it. Okay, the color of my text is, I have to click on the text itself, is white, plain white, and the font size is normal, but the font weight is bold. So I'll copy the font weight and then go back to my UI, and there it is. Okay, again, the buttons usually have a default styling, so you can see here some blackish border. I have to remove that. I'll say border 0, means no border. Okay, and there we go, nice and clean. Now the other thing we need is the hover state. So normal state is done. Let's find the hover state. I make this smaller to find it. There we go, now it's bigger. And let's have a background effect. So you see here it's again a gradient background, it's not plain color. Okay, so the way we do hover state is like when you put your mouse on the button. Now if I go, there's no background changing, so we want that to happen. So we do action button, 2 column, hover. So when I hover on it, oops, hover, and then I'll do background. It will be only background because it's a gradient, linear gradient, and let me copy the color from there. So it will be this one. Let's click save, go back, there we go. You see I'm hovering on it, it's changing now. Now the other thing, if you see here, there's a little hand, right? But when I do in my browser, it's still a cursor or an arrow. So the way you do that again, CSS, is using cursor property, and you have a value of pointer. Okay, I'll select that. Now if I go, it is becoming a hand cursor. Okay, so I think our UI looks amazing. It is exactly same, pixel perfect for our Figma file. Now the next step will be to make it responsive and make it work in the mobile. So stay tuned and we'll cover that in the next video in details.